and welcome to another episode of Next Level Real Talk Podcast with Sheldon and David. Here we are again, David. How goes it this week for you?
Doing great. Back to school and back to swim. So it's been a great week. It's been fun. A little tired, but my body's working good. And it's been fun. It's been a great week.
Awesome. And we're going to
So
do the plug at the beginning this time. So there it is.
okay,
Please
there we
like,
go.
subscribe, share,
Yes.
comment, all that other good stuff. If you get anything out of this, you're listening to things, please hit the like button on these things. I guess it helps get it to more people. And so we were
Yes.
chatting and we were saying that I had a little story about what happened to me the last couple of weeks here at work that I thought would be fun
Mm-hmm.
to share. So I go around the country, and this was happening in Louisiana. And sometimes I end up having meetings. So I'm in the collision repair industry. So sometimes I end up having meetings with the whole shop. And usually I'm getting sent to shops that aren't performing well. And so there's talk about that kind of stuff. But we have a weekly meeting that sometimes is more about team building and stuff like that. And so we could talk about other things. And in one of these meetings, I think that I'm into this whole idea of anybody who's listening to this podcast knows feel very connected on a personal level, right, to my higher power, whatever you want to call that. Sometimes the words I think can be different for people, right? So I try to sometimes I avoid specific words like saying, "Hey, I feel really deeply connected to God and Jesus," and you know what I mean, because that can change people because I'm a little more open. But anyway, but I'm also, there's an energy field that we were created. So in the meeting, I sometimes will talk about this stuff. So a little bit of the stuff that we've shared on the podcast, I will say to people, 19 guys, men and
Mm-hmm.
women who are in a body shop, who are pounding on cars all day long, and sometimes in the South, and sometimes those aren't necessarily the environments where you would think that they would be the most open to this kind of information, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I start talking about that Masaru Emoto, the rice experiment, how,
Mm-hmm.
I would do this and this to the rice, and it rotted very differently, and how, the science has found that there's an energy field around each person that extends about 3 to 4 feet.
Yep.
On the average person, it's about arm's length.
And if you haven't, we talked about it in one of our episodes, but you haven't heard it, look at one of our episodes. But just Google it, and you will see that experiment is incredible because
Yes.
it
So
shows.
Masaru Emoto had this experiment where basically he would say, "I love you" to some water and "I hate you" to the other, and freeze it. And the way it froze, and then he perfected this way to take a picture of it, is it's like creating like a snowflake. Essentially, it's like taking photos of snowflakes. They're completely different between the "I love you" and the "I hate you."
Yep.
Like the ones that had a negative energy at them didn't even turn into the snowflakes, and the other ones were beautiful.
Yeah.
And he started doing it with, somebody prayed on this water and somebody didn't, and somebody did this. And by the way, it was like usually Buddhist, right? Because he's in Japan and it was Buddhist monks. So the Buddhist monks would do a prayer, and it was beautiful crystallization, and the one they didn't was completely ugly.
And the rice thing was incredible. Just the look of the different.
Yeah,
Some
and then
rice
you
was
could do
not
the same
white
thing
by
with
the end.
rice, and it would
Yeah.
rot differently.
Yeah.
So, look in the episode. So I start telling this body shop guys about all this stuff, right? And, there's always a part of me when I do this because sometimes I'll do you think these guys will be open? And sometimes I feel like the shop needs to hear this because part of the bottom line of that is just like, hey, if you're thinking this shop is going to get better and the performance is going to get better, when everything changes, then you're going to be happy. You're part of the issue. You need to bring your best, and your energy matters, and what you bring to this shop matters. And that's kind of how I'll do it in like a team building thing. It's like you matter. You can't just be
Mm-hmm.
bitching about everything that's going on, how wrong it is, and wait for it all to change. You need to be part of the solution. You need to be the energy of
You
I
can't
can help
you
make
can't
it.
wait for something to get better for you to get better. You got to get better to help that situation get better.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
got to be that start. So yeah.
Yes. And that spark is in you. And so you need to
Yep.
connect to that spark and then bring that energy, and then that energy can help become part of shifting this energy of the shop.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when I'm in these shops, they're underperforming, and so they're all pissed off at each other. Sometimes they're all pointing fingers. Well, if the riders were better and this was better and parts is all screwed up, and they're all pointing at each other, all pissed off, right? So I'm trying to stir this up and also change the mindset. And so I do this, and one of the techs, and I'm also asking for feedback and comments, and one of the techs was just pissed, and he raises his hand. He's just like, "This fucking place is fucked up," and he's just throwing f-bombs left and right. Oh, yeah, I ain't making any fucking money, and blah 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 blah. And he's just angry, and he's venting in front of the whole team, which I wanted. I want that. I'm okay with receiving that and hearing it because it's like I need to know where they are. Right. And I tell the GMs that I'm training, I say, you need to hear this information. You need to know how upset your team is and where they're at. And it's the guys that don't say anything. It's actually harder because they're just checked out and they're like, whatever. And then they just go quit and find another job. Right. And so we want to hear this. We want to create an environment where it's safe to talk about this stuff. It's like almost like a group therapy. And they can vent it out, but you need to, as a leader, now take that information and do something about it, right? What are you going to do and create a game plan around it? And how are we going to fix this together as a team? So I go through this whole process. And so this guy's venting like crazy. And and then I think it was that first week I did that. And the next week I was talking about the energy stuff. And you can tell sometimes the guys are like, whatever, this guy's nuts, But again, I'll bring it back to, hey, what you bring in here every single day matters. You cannot come in here pissed off, angry at everybody else, and think that it's going to change. You need to be part of the solution, right? And I used to tell them, I said, in the Navy, the saying was a bitching sailor is a happy sailor, because sailors are always complaining. And I said, and I'm okay with that to an extent. I said, you can come to me with anything and say, this sucks, but I want to know what's the solution. You can say, this sucks, and I think it would be better if we did this or this, and I will listen to you all day long. If you're just going to tell me this sucks, I don't want to hear it, because I'm going to tell you, well, how can we do better? And I need you to be aware of that and come to me with solutions.
Because you're there. You're the one. If it sucks for you, how do I make it better for you?
You're on the floor. You're pissed off. Okay. What can I do better to make it work better? Right. And so it's starting a dialogue, right? Generating all this dialogue. But a lot of times you'll get all this stuff coming out in the end, right? So the next week I'm talking about this Masaru and the rice experiment and how, boom, boom. And so this tech comes up to me and he's telling me, and he was the dude who was like raising his hand going, yeah, this fucking place is fucked up, and throwing all the F-bombs, right? And so when I'm talking about the rice experiment, and then I think it was the next day, he's like, yeah, I just want to tell you. He goes, I just thought that what you were saying was bullshit. Like, I was just like, this guy is full of fucking shit, whatever. And he goes, but there was this like little tiny voice going, you know what? Maybe I need to pay attention to this dude. And so he's working on the car with the welder, and the welder's not working properly, and it's not welding right, and it's I don't know exactly what it was, but he said, but it wasn't welding properly. And sometimes it'd be underpowered, overpowered, whatever. And he was getting pissed off, and he was swearing at the machine. He's like, God damn it, he's all pissed, right? Because he was already a volatile, kind of angry dude right now. And he wasn't in a good space with regard to all kinds of stuff in his personal life. He had to remortgage his house because he was making so little money. He had to remortgage his house. He was 9 years away from being done, and he just put a new 30-year on it to lower the payments. Geez. So he was pissed about that. He was angry with his wife. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff going on in his life that was causing stuff for him. He was not in a happy space. And he's swearing at this welder, and it's fucking up, and he's so pissed off. And he said the thought popped in his head, maybe I ought to try that thing that Sheldon was talking about, that dude was talking about. So he said, he went like this, and he did the little prayer hands, and he did the little prayer hands at the machine and said, okay, I think he even said, I love you, or something like that to the machine. And it fixed, and it immediately started welding properly. And he said he was just like, what the fuck was that? And so he started kind of doing that to his wife. I guess he'd been under so much stress that his behavior obviously towards his wife wasn't as good either, right? So his marriage, his marriage was in a bad space. And he said it started shifting. So the way this all came out, where he started telling me this, was I had said, because he was so messed up that he had to take a day off, and he went to the doctor, and his blood pressure was through the roof, and his numbers were all wacky, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, and he was just a mess. And so he was stressed to the max, and he was like thinking something was going to pop. Like he was like, I'm going to have a heart attack. I am so stressed out. So I said to him, this is like a couple days later, I was just like, hey, you know what? Or the next day after that first meeting where I talked about the energy, and then that next day he had done the stuff with the welder, and I think it was the next day after that, he was telling me about his doctor's appointment. I said, how'd it go? And he was telling me how messed up everything was. And I just said, I might be, I can teach you a meditation. It's very fast. It's like a minute. You can do it in 2 to 3 minutes, and it's the Golden Sun meditation. So if you're
Our
interested,
episode 7, I think it was 7, our first.
is that what it is?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Yeah. So we have a couple episodes where I talk about that meditation. So I taught him, and I said, I can teach you this. It's like 2 to 3 minutes. You can do it really fast. You can do it in your stall. You can go to the bathroom and do it real quick. It's not a time consuming thing, but it can help shift your energy where you'll feel better. And he said, yeah, that would be great. And so then I ended up taking him into a conference room, closing the door. Now I was going to invite some other people, but it ended up being just the two of us. And he's telling me the story about the welder and about how his things with his wife and how stressed out he is. And he goes, and there's something about you. He goes, I just said I need to listen to this guy. And so he goes, so when you ask me to do this meditation thing, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna yeah, if you got something to share that can help me, I'm gonna listen to you. And I do think that there's this whole thing about being authentically yourself, right? Being who you are, and that there's something about when you are at peace, your energy can shift people around you, right?
Yeah.
When you have made the shifts, the internal changes within your whole beingness, yourself, when you've done the work on yourself, people can feel that. So I think that that's part of the message for this whole thing. This is that we continue to do it. Dave and I always talk about that. Nobody's perfect. We're definitely not that, right?
And I will say, just a sidebar real quick, kudos to our mothers, because we were talking earlier about our mothers and like how they never went out. They weren't the preacher. They weren't the, you need to be this, you need to do that. They were just them. They were themselves, and they were the most wonderful people. Those that know my mom, those that know his mom, loved both of them to death.
Yep.
But they were just them. My mom was a Baptist minister's daughter, so a preacher's daughter.
My mom was a Presbyterian minister's daughter.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird, right? When you think about that?
Yep. And they weren't out there preaching, going, "You need to be this, you need to be that." They were just like they were themselves, showing what everybody should be, and through them, people could listen to them and learn from them. And it was like so cool that we can look back. Sad that we have to look back and see it though. But they were just wonderful people, and they were authentic. They were authentically themselves, and allowed others to be authentic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like rather than preaching about being kind and loving, they were kind and loving. They didn't have to tell you anything about it. You could just look at their life and how they treated people, and you knew that they felt that in their heart because they were sincere about that. Yeah. Right. So anyway, that whole idea about something about I feel like, to me, I look at it, and again, it's not trying to be I'm not bragging, but I do think that the stories we're sharing is like, when you've done the work within yourself, enough of it, again, it's never over, but when you get to that place, there's a certain point where opportunities arise, right? And this was one of those. So, being authentic to myself and not being embarrassed or whatever to tell the story about the energy and the Masaru Emoto and all this kind of stuff. And then this guy's like, okay, maybe I ought to listen to this guy, right? And he does it. So now we're in a room, one-on-one, and I'm going to teach him how to do the Golden Sun meditation. And so I start talking to him about the stress brain and cortisol and how we are and how, hair trigger reactions and everything that we've talked about in this podcast. And he's just looking at me. And he's just like, dude, you are describing me to a T, about blowing up. And, have you ever had that thing where somebody hits your hair trigger, and your hair trigger is so fine that you explode and you're yelling and whatever, you're cussing at people. And the next thing you know, you're having to clean up the mess that you created for the next 3 weeks. So like, hey, I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. I've done that in the body shop where I've yelled and screamed at my guys. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Just bam, just exploded and ripped them a new asshole. And then I'm like, oh, dude, and they're all like, what the fuck was that? And all this stuff. And they're pissed off at you. And you could spend weeks and months trying to undo that negative thing that you created through your volatility. And he just was looking at me going, dude, you're describing me to a T.
And I have a story about that later on. I don't want to interrupt now, but remind me. I'm going to write it down. It's a cool something I do with my class all the time. So I'm
describing the mess, in this whole process. And he's like, yeah, that's me. So I take him through the meditation. And first time you do it, it's like 5 minutes or whatever, because I got to describe everything. He's got tears, and he's just like, I feel like such a weight got lifted off there just now. And he's crying. He's talking about how, again, how he's on the verge of losing his wife because of the stress and it's been eating him up so much and blah, blah, blah. And how he just felt like relief, like there was a relief that happened to him, right? And one of the things I like to describe it is like, this is the meaning of communion, right? You're quieting your mind and you're spending your time in communion with the creator, God, whatever you want to call that, right? You're resting in this field of energy, this beautiful light, right? The light of the Christ, if you want to call it that, right? But you're allowing yourself to feel and to be healed and to surrender to and to be in the feel, this communion with this
And
thing.
calming all that going on up here, like letting it rest. Like
Yeah,
stop.
it's like
Let it
you have
rest.
to quiet the mind because the mind is trying to control everything, and the mind's not doing it because it's bad, but it thinks, it's trying to control your body in this weird way. It thinks, you're this body, but you're not. Anyway, and you have to quiet that thing to open up the doorway, right? To allow this energy to flow, which is why the Buddhists look at it from mind first. Jesus looked at it from love first. So there's this different approach to the same place is how I look at it, right? So anyway, I do the thing with him, and he's got tears in his eyes, and he's just like, "Dude, I'm sorry, I'm crying in front of you," because he's a dude, he's like, "Wow, man," he's trying to stop it, but his eyes are all red, and he's just like, "I needed that," He's just like, I don't know what is happening, but I needed that. And so we did it again because I always like to do it twice just to let him feel. And then he got a little deeper in it, and he was just like more tears. And he's just like, wow, And I said, I need you to do this thing like 5 times a day, 3 minutes, 5 times a day. That's 15 minutes. So you can squeeze 15 minutes. Do once in the morning, once mid-afternoon, mid-morning, once at lunch, mid-afternoon, and once at evening when you go home kind of thing. And so that was the schedule that I taught him. See him the next day. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm walking through the door. Hey, how you doing? Did you know? And he goes, I already done the thing 3 times, dude. And he goes, like, I feel so much better. I can't even believe it. I can't even tell you how much better. He looked like a different person. There was light in his eyes. There was a brightness in his eyes. Like he was, like the real authentic him was back.
And I was going to say, because him doing that, there was probably so much going on up here, he couldn't stop
Yep.
the negativity of his own,
Yep.
own brain. And I think him doing that golden sun meditation, going like, okay, yes, this is going on, but it's not this horrible. It's not that bad. It's not this. It allows you to calm it down and see it in a real view.
Yep.
So, which is where he was going.
Yep.
He became authentic with himself.
Yep.
You being authentic allowed him to be authentic. Yeah.
And so that was, last week. And then I came back and I was there this week. And, and I haven't really touched it again, to be honest with you, because again, I'm at work and I'm doing stuff, right? So I just, hey, James, how's it going? Oops, I probably shouldn't have said his name. Hey, what's up? How's it going? And he's like, yeah, man, good. So you still keep it up? And he's like, yep, like that, and that's it. But he did say something about this has changed my life, the way I am with my wife, my daughters, my family, everything. Like it's fundamentally changed him.
Good.
And and he just said it right there. Hey man, this has changed everything. This is, And I was like, cool man, I'm happy for you. And I just keep walking, like 'cause I'm not here. so
And
so,
a lot of it is him going inside and going like, it's okay.
100%.
It's like, it's that finally slowing down and seeing that inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. I just think that, on a certain level, sometimes we don't know, number one, why we're meeting people, and we don't know the effects. We've talked about that before. You don't know the impact that you can have on somebody. Sometimes you get the opportunity where they literally tell you, and that's a beautiful blessing, right? But sometimes these things happen, and you would never know.
You
know
never
what I mean?
know what's going to happen.
Like somebody might have watched our Golden Sun meditation video, and it changed their life, and we don't know that. They never
Yep.
said anything, right? Which is why we appreciate it when you put a comment in there and you tell us.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm going to do a small little blurb for my divorce lawyer. So Wendy, Sheldon and I were talking about this too. Like Wendy, okay, by the way, back in the day, she saved me. I mean, not saved me, but saved me from ruins in my own brain. She was my divorce lawyer when I got divorced. And she was wonderful. Sheldon knows.
And when you were maxed out in your brain going through divorce is when you started the process of all this stuff we are talking about here that we've been talking about in the podcast. Because that was the lowest point of low for you was the moment when you were also willing. You had it, it's some, and I tell people this, right? Because sometimes when things are okay, it's just like, yeah, whatever, dude. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard of and whatever. But when things aren't going okay, that's when people sometimes are like, well, maybe I need to try something different. It's not working, right? And that's what the 12 step says, right? You screwed my
Yeah.
life up. I've been trying to fix it this whole time, and maybe I need to try something different, which is surrender to higher power, right? Right? But you had a willingness and an openness at that moment. But
Yeah.
so everybody understands you started this process when you were in the lowest place,
The
you've
lowest
ever
of my
been
lows.
in
Yes.
your entire life, right?
And
So,
what I was talking about Wendy was she was there kind of talking me through things. She wasn't just my lawyer; she was family, and that's what that whole office was, by the way. But you never know. So she got me through that. I mean, she's like on a pedestal with me, just what she did for me. Um, but coming now, she's writing a book on legally ending love, which is from a lawyer's perspective. This is what you need to do. She takes them through the steps, and so it's not out yet. It's coming out. And I read the first chapter and I responded to her and said, "This is wonderful," because I'm helping read it. Me and some friends are reading
yeah,
it.
and the cool thing is she actually asked you to be one of the
Yeah.
proofreaders, right? And to give her
Yep.
feedback on the book itself. So, and this, how long ago was it? 10 plus years ago, right?
Gosh, this is 10, 13 years ago. I'm not sure exactly. I have to go back
Yeah,
and look.
so it's been a minute. This is like this
Yeah.
whole journey, right? Of here's this lawyer from 13 years ago who helped you through the most difficult part of your life,
Yeah.
but you kept in contact with because
Yeah.
she literally guided you through the
Oh
worst moments
God.
of your life
Start crying. Um,
to do
yeah,
it
and so
with
it's
such grace. She did it. She
yeah.
handled it with grace and beauty and compassion and
Yeah.
love, but
Yep.
clarity.
And yeah, with clarity. And so I wrote back and said, "Oh my gosh, I love the first." So we're talking back and forth about the first chapter, and the rest of it's coming out, so I get to read a little bit. Um, but it's cool how I'm from my perspective. Never thought about this 13 whatever years ago it was. I would be helping her from my perspective as a person that went through the divorce. She's never been
Yeah,
divorced, but she's a divorce lawyer. So it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just meant which is great. Um, but it was cool to be able to read it and kind of like, wow, come full circle. I'm helping her.
yeah,
I mean, she wrote the book. I didn't write the book at all. But it's like, well, I can give you a tip here,
yep,
from my perspective. Because
yep,
I will tell you that first chapter was phenomenal.
yeah,
It just walked you through. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's good. And I texted her and she's like, I never thought of it from that perspective
yeah,
because she's never been in my perspective.
yeah.
So it's kind of cool. It's kind so her being authentic obviously allowed me to become my person, calm down, and Sheldon helped me through that. But yeah, so it's kind of cool to be able to have
So
that.
yeah,
You never know who you're going to touch or where you're going to touch. I'm like, I never thought that I would be doing this, helping her through this,
I guess,
situations.
if we have like a theme, right? One of it was, we were talking about that before we started recording this thing. Is like, you never know. One of them is, for this might be like, you just don't know where life is going to take you, who you're going to interact with, and how you might be, how that person might be touched by what
Yeah.
you're talking about, right?
Yep. There's I'll keep going. I want to tell you
Go
about the
ahead.
toothpaste activity a little bit later. Do you have some?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this toothpaste, I did this in school with my students. I'm a librarian now, so I don't do it anymore. But I had my accounting kids. I'd say, doing business stuff. I'd say, okay, today we're doing a toothpaste activity. And so I have $100 bill. I would sit there and I'd say, okay, here's $100 bill. I mean, it was a crisp, real $100 bill. I said, okay, so we have 4 teams. Okay. 4 teams of 3 or 4. I said, okay, whichever team completes the activity gets a $100 bill. It's crisp. I give it to her. Is that real? Yeah, it's real. If all 4 of you do it correctly, I will give you each $400, each team a $400 bill. So if it's 4 of you, you get $25 each. They're like, what? I can do that because I know it's never going to happen. Because I know this thing. So what I do is they have a bowl, and they have a little we call travel size toothpaste. They get a toothpick and a fork. That's all they have. I said, okay, take the toothpaste and squeeze it out and put it in the bowl. So they do that. So now here's your challenge. You need to get all that toothpaste back in the tube. All that toothpaste back in the tube. So they're going through it and they're all doing it and they do different ways because obviously a toothpick and a fork isn't going to help you scoop that up and get it.
Right.
It makes it hard. Some kids put it in their mouth and spit it back in the tube. So literally, they're like have the entire tube in their mouth. Like, bleh, that's gross because they're swallowing, right?
Yeah.
So kids say they're done. Okay, we're done. Okay, we're done. Okay. So I go to this group and said, "Oh, so you're done? Yeah. Did you get it all back in the tube? Yeah, we got it all back in the tube." I said, "What's that on the fork?" What's that on the toothpick? Well, a little bit on the next group. Yeah, we got it all. The kid that put it in his mouth and spit it back in. I said, wow, that looks pretty good. I go, wait, did you swallow while you did that? Well, yeah, I swallowed. I go, well, some of that toothpaste was in your saliva.
Yeah.
So you didn't get it all back in there.
Yeah.
So they're looking at me like, oh, this isn't fair. I go, well, here's what life is. If you say something about somebody mean, rude, angry, and you feel bad about it, you can say you're sorry, but you will never get it back to the original relationship that you had. So be careful with the words you say.
It's beautiful.
And I've never had to give up $100, people.
Yeah.
So it's a great lesson for not only kids but for adults. It's like, wow, watch what you say.
Yeah.
You know. So which is like with him, the guy you're talking about, like he was kind of angry, probably saying some things, being mean, but yeah. So be careful what you say, and always be looking for connections in life, and be authentic. Be you. It's great to be you. Guess what? God made you who you are, and you're special.
Yeah.
So be
you
you.
never know who you know, are meant to meet, and how that interaction might help somebody or not. Right?
Yeah.
You know, it might change your life. You never know.
You might get something out of them, but what are you going to give?
Yeah.
You know, not trying to say, okay, I need to go to Sheldon. I need to give him this piece of his life. No, just being your authentic person gives them that piece of life. You're like, wow, that interaction with that person really helped me that day.
Yep.
That's So just be authentic. Listen to people when they're talking to you, because they're trying to be authentic to you, and you individually come out and be authentic, so that you can know your place in this world. So
be your authentic self. You never know.
Yep, be your authentic self. I love it.
And that's actually really way harder to do than people realize, right? There's so much conditioning and programming and all that other stuff. And, you know, we could do another podcast on that if we wanted. But I think that's it for this one, right? It's just I wanted to tell this quick story. It's, it's kind of cool that, just being myself and, and you just don't know what impact you might be able to have on people. And
then him being authentic with himself, learning to go through some of the stuff, helped change his world at work 100%. And his marriage. Man.
He had to be open, right? He had a willingness and an openness to hear. And again, something about us, it feels very much like it was meant to be, like I was meant to be there for this particular case and this person and in this instance or whatever you want to call it, and in our interaction. And it's been beautiful so far, and hopefully he continues and this whole thing, whatever. Yeah. So I kind of just like let it go, So anyway, so hopefully that was inspiring for somebody.
And that's the homework. Just be authentic.
Yeah.
Be able to stop, be you, listen, relax, do your meditation, and go like, okay, this is where I am today, and just be authentically you.
Yes. So,
have a great week. Keep that smile on.
Remember, like, subscribe, comment, all that other good stuff. Share it with somebody. We hope that this was a little happy message for you, a little pick me up. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Love you guys.